Contested Waters, The Mind at War. Part 2. The ocean always tells the truth. It tells the truth because it refuses to pretend. Waves don't lie. They rise, they fall, they break, they roar, but they never claim to be something they're not. And that's why Contested Waters hits so hard. It's not just about ships at sea. It's about the mind drifting in a storm it doesn't understand. It's about young men wrestling with shadows that look like enemies. It's about the ego whispering the same old motto, "Are you ready to fight?" Because the ego doesn't do peace. The ego only understands threat. The ego only trusts conflict. The ego only feels alive when something is hunting it. And these Marines, God bless them, are showing us the whole internal battlefield without even knowing it. Look at how the documentary opens. Another ship appears, another adversary in the same water. Immediately the mind leaps to worst-case scenarios. Why are they out here? What are they doing? What if it goes bad? That is the ego's first language, projection. Not what is, but what could go wrong. Not the moment, but the fear around the moment. Not the water, but the threat living inside the water. And you see how quickly the young Marines absorb this energy. They joke about explosions. They laugh about getting blown to smithereens. But beneath the humor is hunger, a craving, a need to prove something, because nobody joins the ego's army without a wound. Nobody signs up for combat who doesn't feel somewhere deep inside, "I need to earn my worth." You heard that young Marine talk about his childhood, a father in prison, a mother struggling, being kicked out of his house, finding family only when another family took him in. That boy isn't trying to kill anybody. He's trying to kill a story about himself, the story that said he wasn't enough. And the ego loves those kinds of recruits. Because the ego promises a shortcut. Just fight the right enemy and you'll finally feel whole. But here's the metaphysical problem. The enemy is never outside the mind. So the battle never ends. Look at the structure aboard the ship. Different mess halls, different rooms, different dining areas, different symbols on the door. Even in the military, one system, one mission, one uniform, the ego finds a way to divide. Who belongs? Who doesn't? Who sits here? Who sits there? Who's allowed in the wardroom? Who gets called sir? Even the dining rooms are battlegrounds. Because the ego can turn anything into hierarchy, anything into separation, anything into us versus them. Then you hear that one Marine say it plainly, "Stacking bodies with the boys." Listen to that phrase. Not souls, not people, bodies. That's what the ego thinks all bodies are, stackable objects in a dream of violence. But the soul can't be stacked. The self can't be killed. Christ can't be threatened. Only the story of self feels like it's always under attack. And that's why the hunger for combat feels spiritual. Because deep down they're not looking for war. They're looking for identity. They're trying to settle a question the ego can never answer. Am I enough? One Marine said it beautifully without realizing it. Testing yourself in that way is something a lot of men hunger for. Hunger is not peace. Hunger is lack. Hunger is the belief that something is missing. And wherever the ego senses lack, it will demand a battlefield. At the end of this episode, the producer asks the Marine a question that slices right through the conditioning. How will you find purpose if not in combat? He doesn't have an answer. Because nobody trained him to look inward. Nobody trained him to question the premise. Nobody trained him to question the identity that wants the fight. And that's why these Marines are such powerful teachers. Not because they show us how to fight, but because they show us why the mind believes it must. War is not out there. War is the mind trying to recover its own worth by attacking something outside itself. But the ocean keeps telling the truth. It has no enemies, only reflections. And when the mind stops fighting its own reflection, the water stops being contested. It becomes clear. It becomes open. It becomes peaceful. Because nothing real is ever threatened, and nothing unreal exists. In that quiet space, the marine, the boy, the ego, the world, all dissolve into the one truth the ocean knew all along. There was nothing to defend, and nothing to fear, not out there, not here, not ever.